Welcome, guys, to Seward in the winter. If you've been here in the summer, you know how beautiful the area is. However, in the winter, when the weather clears, it's absolutely gorgeous. Right now it's December and it's right about noon. The sun is just rising and shining on the mountains behind me. The mountain to my left is called Mount Alice, and to the right is Mount Eva. Both Mount Alice and Mount Eva were named after the daughters of Frank and Mary Lowell, who homesteaded here in the mid-1800s. You know, it's hard to believe that not so long ago, this bay was remote and uninhabited. There had been Aleutic camps and, of course, the Russian fort, but basically, this bay was a quiet place that was rarely visited. Well, this began to change when the Lowell family sailed into the bay.
The year was 1884. A small craft sailed into Resurrection Bay. In the boat was the family of Frank and Mary Lowell. Frank was a trader for the Alaska Commercial Company. His wife was Mary. She was of Aleutic and Russian descent. They had left English Bay, now known as Nanwalek, earlier that year. It is said that they had been searching the coast for a place to homestead. Frank wanted to set up a trading station. At first glance, Frank dismissed the bay. He didn't like it and wanted to continue searching down the coast. Perhaps he saw what an unstable alluvial fan and the evidence of flooding and potential for tsunamis. I mean, why would someone want to build a settlement here? Go figure. However, Mary was pregnant with Eva. She was tired of traveling. Written accounts suggest that she did not like being on the water and was prone to seasickness. She wanted to be done with it, so they settled here. Although Resurrection Bay was unoccupied, that doesn't mean nothing was here. The Resurrection River had been a trade route for natives for hundreds of years, and the Russians had abandoned the fort not only 40 to 60 years before. Here, take a look at this photo. It is of the Lowell homestead. Look at the modern-style porch construction and the unique log notching done in the Russian style. It is quite possible that this structure was originally part of the Russian fort. So the Lowells built a life here in Resurrection Bay. Eva was born, along with Edwin, in 1887. They were now a family with 8 surviving children. That's amazing, considering Mary would not have any medical help for all of these deliveries. The family built other structures. They planted a huge garden with potatoes and other vegetables. And once a year, a boat would come into the bay to purchase the furs that Frank had been able to obtain. In 1893, Frank left his wife and his kids to build a new life for himself on Kodiak Island. Mary and the children were now by themselves, but they persevered. The older boys were expert sailors and no doubt provided for the family with what they could fish, hunt, and harvest. They continued to live in their isolated homestead. But change was in the air. The gold was discovered in Hope and Sunrise region. Boats would come into the bay to offload transit miners and their supplies. The strategic importance of Resurrection Bay was being rediscovered. The area certainly caught the attention of the Belain brothers. John and Frank Belain had visions of this spot being the gateway in and out of Alaska. In their eyes, Resurrection Bay was ground zero for the development of the interior of Alaska. And my, did they have grand plans for the new city. As John Belain said years later, the harbor would provide good year-round shelter for ships, room for wharfs, smelters for ore, and rail yard for receiving goods, and enough area to accommodate for a population of not less than 500,000 people. Yes, the Belain brothers had grand plans. and life was about to change for the Lowell family. People began to drift into Resurrection Bay. By 1902, surveyors had arrived to plat out the future town of Seward. One surveyor brought his son Chester with him. Chester spent a marvelous summer playing with the Lowell grandchildren. Take a look at this photo. It shows granddaughter Mary, along with some of the vegetables in their garden from that year. And standing behind her, looking confidently from an open door of the shed, is Chester. He later described that summer with fond memories. The next year, on August 28, 1903, the steamship Santa Ana arrived with 83 men, women, and children, and the equipment necessary to create this magnificent gateway to the north. The town erupted around the Lowell homestead. Within a single day, the sawmill had been established. Within a few short weeks, roads were cut through the forests, and buildings were erected. Within 10 days of the settlers' arrival, winter housing had been completed. Since Seward was a planned community, it was built with the newest technology. Stores, homes, businesses, and churches were built with electricity and plumbing. Within a year, whistles from the work trains pierced what had been the isolated silence of the bay. Literally overnight, the quiet of the Lowell family's wilderness had been transformed into a city with modern conveniences. The dream of John and Frank Belain was beginning to be realized. We don't really know what Mary and her children felt about the dramatic changes that occurred so rapidly. However, when the first class was held at the school that fall, Edwin, the youngest of the Lowell children, was enrolled. They were adapting to the change. As for Eva and Alice, their lives were transformed. Eva married twice, first to Harry Revell, then to the renowned hunting guide, Andy Simons. Together they lived remotely on a homestead at Mile 20 on Kenai Lake. Alice, however, chose a different path. She married Henry Scheffler and then moved to the city of Tacoma, Washington, where she lived the rest of her life. It is ironic, considering her frontier childhood of living in the wilderness, that she died in an automobile accident in the city in 1965.
The town of Seward fondly remembers these local pioneers. They were our first permanent settlers in this place that is now called Seward, and they've become an important part of the area's history. All of these features stand as a testimony to the pioneering family that sailed into Resurrection Bay not so long ago.